Okay, so firstly, you're going to recall the poem Afternoons, which you've already studied. I'd like you to look at the three key words from your key quotations that are on the screen: fading, washing, and side. And I'd like you to now write down what you remember of each fuller quotation based on the keyword, and how each quotation links back to the story. So if you can, also write down what the 5 W's of the story are. So now that you have recalled Afternoons, you're going to move on to the poem Dulce by Wilfred Owen. And as you know, this poem explores the impact of war on Wilfred Owen, World War I. So as we know, Owen wrote the poem Dulce from his own perspective as a soldier in World War One. That perspective demonstrates some very graphic imagery, certainly some anger, and the fact that the war and the images of it haunted him. It's very much in contrast to the propaganda of the time, which demonstrated going to war as being a very heroic, noble, wonderful thing to do. You can have a look at some of the posters and the propaganda on the screen, and by looking at the link on the screen as well. So in his poem, he challenges this idea of war being very heroic, and he very much is angry about that and talks about how it's not a sweet and a noble thing, but it's very much a lie, that war is the absolute contrast to the images that are being portrayed of it. Bent double like old beggars under sacks, knock-kneed, coughing like hags, we cursed through sludge, till on the haunting flares we turned our backs, and towards our distant rest began to trudge. Men marched asleep. Many had lost their boots, but limped on, bloodshot. All went lame, all blind, drunk with fatigue, deaf even to the hoots of gas shells dropping softly behind. Gas, gas, quick, boys, an ecstasy of fumbling, fitting the clumsy helmets just in time. But someone still was yelling out and stumbling and floundering like a man in fire or lime. Dim through the misty panes and thick green light, as under a green sea, I saw him drowning. In all my dreams, before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. If in some smothering dreams you too could pace behind the wagon that we flung him in, and watch with white eyes writhing in his hanging face, like a devil sick of sin, if you could hear at every jolt the blood come gargling from the froth-corrupted lungs, obscene as cancer, bitter as the cud of vile, incurable sores on innocent tongues, my friend, you would not tell, with such high zest, to children ardent for some desperate glory, the old lie, dulce et decorum est pro patria more. So here are three key quotations that we've chosen for you. You can obviously choose some others if you wish, but we have here the keywords beggars, choking, lie from the full quotations that you can see on the screen. And have a think now about what the meaning is behind these quotations. What is Owen trying to suggest? What sort of feelings do the quotations evoke? What part of the story do they tell? Okay, so what you're now going to do is a write-up of the full poem. So you're going to tell the story of the poem, but focus in at least on the 3 key quotations that we've given you in a bit more depth. So along the way, you may reference other things, and you will see in the notes column that there are some suggestions as to some other key words and quotes that you might reference. But I want you to concentrate mainly on our fuller key quotation and developing your comment on that. So referencing, the writer's intentions or concerns, the themes, obviously the impact that the war was having, the way that he is challenging the propaganda of the time, and anything that is contextual and relevant can be referenced here. Because remember, there are some marks for good use of context. You don't need lots in there, but little snippets that are relevant. On each screen, you've got a starting point, and then afterwards on the next screen you've got an example of how you might have developed that key quotation. So have a go yourself first of all, then look at the following screen for some idea of how you might have developed that particular one. So you've done an analysis now of the full poem, told the story of the poem, gone into some detail and developed some of your comments on key quotations. And what you need to do at the end is to say what the message is. Why has the writer written this poem? I think it's quite obvious as we've been going through, but I want you to spend some time now writing that final little paragraph that sums up the why. Why has the writer given the reader this message? What were they trying to portray? So have a go at writing this yourself. Use these question prompts on the screen to help you formulate it. So finally then, the key words for the key quotations: beggars, choking, lie. I want you to test yourself as to what the key quotations are and what they mean, how they fit into the poem, and how they tell the story of the poem.